It'd be nice if they say it on the record, but it sounds like they've left. So.
No, Greg just wanted to talk to Lori. Yeah, they're still here. Sorry.
For the record, it'd be nice if they go from us.
Okay.
The chaos was
Welcome to the February 1st, 2024 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:02. Let's start with a roll call. I know Board Member Scales has indicated he will not be here tonight. Board Member Reeves.
Present.
Board Member Langley is here. Board Member Smith.
Yes.
And Board Member Fleschauer.
Here.
Awesome. Sounds like we're good to go then. All right, we will next go to citizen comments. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you would like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until the citizen comment period for that item. For all citizen comments, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to staff. Come up to the microphone and state your name and address, and then limit your comments to 2 minutes. I believe you have one comment card. We're still kind of working through that item, so we may have more announcements. But I did receive that one comment card for the item at 904 Fair Street, just to let you know that. Are there any citizens who wish to speak to the commission at this time? We can take comments on individual items with those items, but this is more kind of general comment. Any comments? All right, seeing none, let's move to consideration of approval of the January 4th, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Motion for approval made by Board Member Reeves. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, minutes are approved. So we'll go on to our next item. So item number 2 is going to be a variance request to reduce the minimum garage setback for a front-loading garage from 20 feet to 14 feet behind the front facade and front door of the principal building for the property located at 1151 Carter Street. Staff.
Thank you and good evening. The subject parcel is located at 1151 Carter Street and is zoned R6 Residential 6 District. The zoning ordinance requires that front-facing garages be at least 20 feet behind the front facade and front door, as well as 22 feet from the sidewalk. There is no sidewalk adjacent to the property today. The proposed front-facing garage is located 14 feet behind the front facade and front door. I'll now go into staff analysis. The BZA may authorize a variance only when the request has met all 3 criteria in accordance with the Franklin zoning ordinance and state law. Staff has completed an analysis of the request in light of the 3 criteria. Criteria 1, where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the zoning ordinance, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situation or conditions, such a piece of property is not able to accommodate development as required under this ordinance. The subject property is one of 5 single-family residential lots along Carter Street. The parcel is approximately 74 feet in width and between 74 feet and 77.5 feet in depth. The depth of the lot is shallower than many of the properties in this area. The zoning of the property is R6, which requires that the front setback, among other criteria, be no closer than any adjacent existing building. In this case, both the adjacent houses are approximately 15 feet from their front lot lines. R6 also requires a 15-foot rear setback. These setbacks require a smaller than average building envelope for this lot. Because of the uniqueness of the depth of the property, staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 2. Strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The applicant has indicated that the owners intend to build a two-car garage attached with a living space above it. Placing the garage 20 feet behind the front facade and front door would make the garage out of compliance with the required 15-foot rear yard setback, as stated in Franklin Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 3.8.5, and discussed in Criteria 1. Due to the unique shape of the property, the strict application of the zoning ordinance would prevent a home with a two-car attached garage from being constructed without violating some portion of the zoning ordinance, which staff finds to be a practical difficulty, and therefore this criteria is met. Criteria 3. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. The proposed front-facing garage meets the intent of the ordinance because the garage is set back as much as possible from the front facade of the house. This request meets the required rear yard setback and side yard setbacks along the adjacent residential lots and would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good if a variance were to be approved. Staff finds this criteria is met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to approve the variance request to allow a variance request to reduce the minimum garage setback for a front-facing garage for 20 feet to 14 feet behind the front facade and front door of the principal building for the property located at 1151 Carter Street, because the criteria for granting a variance have been met. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? Carter Street item, is an applicant present for us?
Are you the applicant? Yes. Oh, yes, would you like to say anything?
No worries. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, John Bruck, B-R-U-C-K. My home address, 408 Luna Court, Franklin, Tennessee. The property in question that I wanting a variance on is 1151 Carter Street, Franklin, Tennessee.
Okay. You have any additional comments to add beyond what staff presented?
No,
Okay. All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
So next we'll open up the public comment. Are there any citizen comments on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
Motion to close.
Motion made by Board Member Fleschauer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Reeves. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so public comment's closed. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I've just got I'm trying to find a document that shows the proposed location and size. Do we have something like that in the packet? Maybe I'm just missing it.
I did notice that in the submittal documents, we kind of have the facades. I don't know that it shows like exact layout on the lots. Like
I just
dimensions.
found it. I just found it.
Found it? Oh, perfect.
I
Okay.
did, sorry. It was on the second page of something. Okay. So it meets the side and the rear setbacks? Yep, okay. Gotcha.
Any other questions? I'm ready to entertain a motion when the board is ready.
I move that we approve the variance to reduce the minimum garage setback for a front-facing garage from 20 feet to 14 feet behind the front facade and front door of the principal building for the property located at 1151 Carter Street, because the criteria for granting the variance has been met.
Okay, motion for approval made by Board Member Smith, second by Board Member Reeves. Discussion? All right, let's take a vote. We'll go one by one. I know on the other ones I've kind of combined that. I think it keeps it clean for the record. So Board Member Reeves.
Yes.
Okay, Board Member Langley, yes. Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Fleschauer?
Yes.
All right, this item's approved unanimously. All right, so next is item number 3, which is going to be a variance request to allow a retaining wall to be set back 4 feet and 2 inches from the lot line for the property located at 904 Fair Street. I'll go to staff. I know we have a question about whether this is going to be
Yes.
withdrawn or not. So
It's my understanding the applicant would like to withdraw, so if you would like to invite him to the podium.
Hi, good evening. My name is Greg Gamble, and my client is requesting to withdraw this item from the agenda.
okay. Thank you. All right. So we're down to, so I got double pages here. I'm kind of doing the flip. So item number 4, it's going to be a variance request to allow a driveway to encroach into the front yard area located in front of the remaining part of the principal building for the property located at 500 Murfreesboro Road. Staff.
Thank you. The subject parcel is located at 500 Murfreesboro Road and is zoned R2 residential. It is also located within the Scenic Corridor Overlay, Central Franklin Overlay, and Flood Fringe Overlay. The property currently has a 10-foot wide driveway extending from Murfreesboro Road to the detached garage, which is located farther south than the existing home. Traffic along Murfreesboro Road has increased since the house was built, so the property owner feels it would be more safe to not back out of the driveway onto Murfreesboro Road. There is not enough room between the existing home and the side property line to widen the current driveway to allow a car to turn around in the driveway. The property owner would like to create an extension off the existing driveway that goes in front of the house and connects out to Ewingville Drive. The proposed driveway curves south before it connects to Ewingville Drive in order to comply with the street standards, which require a driveway entrance to be at least 50 feet from the radius return at Ewingville Drive in Murfreesboro Road. For this reason, the applicant is requesting a variance request to allow a driveway to encroach into the front yard area located in front of the remaining part of the principal building. I'll now go into staff analysis. Criteria 1. Where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time enactment of the zoning ordinance, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions, such a piece of property is not able to accommodate development as required under this ordinance. The applicant has stated that the proposed driveway is necessary due to the traffic conditions on Murfreesboro Road, making it unsafe to back out onto the road with the current driveway. The current driveway is 10 feet wide, which does not provide room for the car to turn around, and the orientation and location of the garage would not allow vehicle access into the garage from Ewingville Drive. However, there are no city regulations that would necessitate moving this driveway configuration based on traffic conditions alone. For new construction, technical street standards require a site access to be from the street with the lower classification. However, new construction could be designed to meet all of the zoning ordinance requirements for driveway construction and would not be permitted to have a curb cut on the higher classification street. For this reason, staff cannot determine that the traffic conditions alone necessitate the driveway to be moved and designed as proposed. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2. The strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for, or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. Placing the driveway behind the house would prove difficult with the existing location of the house and garage, along with the garage door orientation. The zoning ordinance requires a minimum 20-foot drive aisle adjacent to parking spaces 90 degrees off the drive aisle, and this is a similar orientation. However, there is only a maximum of 19 feet between the house and the garage. So if the driveway were placed behind the house, the existing location of the house and the garage, along with the garage door orientation, cannot accommodate the proper driveway width to allow turning movement in and out of the garage. The garage would either need to be moved or reoriented in order to access a drive behind the house. Staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 3. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds that this request would not be a detriment to the public good, but it would impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. The intent of the zoning ordinance in this case is to ensure that the visual aspect of driveways and cars is not at the forefront, rather than the primary building on the lot. The zoning ordinance in this case is encouraging houses to be the primary focal point and driveways and cars to be secondary to the house. Locating the driveway in front of the house impairs the intent of the zoning ordinance in this case. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends the Board of Zoning Appeals move to deny the variance request to allow a driveway to encroach into the front yard area located in front of the remaining part of the principal building for the property located at 500 Murfreesboro Road because the criteria for granting a variance have not been met. Additional staff comment. Should the BZA feel that all criteria are met, staff would suggest a condition that the driveway should only access Ewingville Road, thereby removing the curb cut on Murfreesboro Road to maintain the most compliance with the technical street standards. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? If you could step forward for us and state your name for the record and address. If it's not 500 Murfreesboro Road.
Thank you. My name's David Douglas, my wife as well. We're the residents of 500 Murfreesboro Road. And what was the other question? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, any additional staff comment or comments beyond what staff presented for us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's my first time doing this, so thank you for hearing our petition. And Ariella and the staff have been excellent. We're very happy to be residents of the city of Franklin. As I understood the section 1 and 3, which seems to be the negating elements of being able to get a variance, the planning division is determining, as I understand it, that they're not arguing at present that there would be a necessity to move the present driveway. And they're saying that along with that, that even though today's current classifications of lower versus higher road traffic would necessitate a side driveway, they're not, I guess, addressing that liminal space that connects safety to technical standards of driveways. And I do think that there are cases where municipal oversights, either federal, state, county, have one intention, but they don't have jurisdiction to identify something that's an in-between place. So my argument for number one is that they're not saying, also I just want to add that we're not looking to remove or change the front driveway, even though they're saying that they would not require it. We're looking to add to the existing driveway and supplement the driveway so that we can back up, not get to Murfreesboro Road, drive forward to Ewingville, and then exit in that fashion. So I want to state that it was vague to me that under your, I guess, the preliminary language of what qualifies, that there should be no unnecessary hardship versus inconvenience. There isn't a definition necessarily that I could find and asked, but it would be subject to your, I guess, judgment. But to me, an inconvenience is something that you have the ability to do with agency and free will, but you choose not to either because of laziness or some other reason. Hardship is where there is another factor involved that takes away your own agency in which you cannot control, and therefore it becomes impassable to just motivation. It's a hardship. In this case, driving backwards for us is not an option of inconvenience. It's a hardship. I don't know if you have any of the data that was supplied in the file for this, but there are 1,654 cars that traverse that road. There were 8 accidents, of which 2 were injuries within a 400, 500-foot radius of there. And backing out of it is not an issue where we can easily get permission from oncoming drivers going eastbound. They identify us as people that will slow them down. I've talked to a few that if you have to do a 2-point turn in rush hour, we're just going to push through. When you get to Ewingville Road, a lower classification where you're not driving backwards, but you're approaching forward, you have a much more higher percentage of being able to go forward. It may be, in my opinion, an inconvenience, but it's one we're happy to take on. So our proposal of having the driveway exit the side and adding to the existing driveway is, I feel, not taking into consideration the zoning board's appeal as to how safety relates to traffic standards. So I propose that maybe you educate me, or we could have a discussion about that and where safety has taken a second seat to primacy of technical standards. I feel like this is a legal non-conforming situation. And in those spaces where they can tell me you can keep your present driveway, there's no mandate of planning to tell me to move it, but we can't tell you to add a second driveway to the side because you comply to the current code. But if you were to wreck your house and turn it down, we would then reply it. We're not looking to remove the present driveway. We're looking to amend the existing way to egress our home that is safe, and we would like you to consider that as a primacy over technical standards, especially if we can meet what present standards would require if a drive were to go through the front and be 50 feet off of the curve radius from Ewingville Road and Murfreesboro Road, such that we would meet the technical standards of a egress point at that juncture.
Okay. Thanks for your, any additional
Yeah,
comments?
and then the third
Okay.
one. This is kind of, you know, I just wrote this down. I'm sorry, I don't do this on a daily basis, but
It may help us out, staff, while he's kind of looking at notes. If you could pull up the diagram, I guess, where the proposed driveway, that'd be great. I figure we'll ask about that in a couple minutes, so.
do you
Yeah,
want,
go ahead.
you want me to, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in regard to the third criteria, the staff agrees that our request wouldn't be a detriment, but it claims that it would impair the intent of the ordinance, ensuring the visual aspect, that the property take a foreground to any kind of vehicles or driveway. And I'd like to say to that, we are not proposing that we would park our cars in front of the driveway. And in fact, we are able to, even at present, park the cars to the side of the front facade of the house and further back so that the house is in the primacy. The issue becomes when we're trying to exit the property. And so this is a corner lot, and no matter what vantage point you're driving from, if we were even have a side driveway, you are still going to see driveways and cars going eastbound on Murfreesboro Road. It's been suggested to us to do a parking pad. Truth be told, we want to make our home the most beautiful, most improved home in this entire village. And if you drive that route, you probably know which home it is. So a 20 by 25 foot parking pad in the front is, to me, going against further the visual aid than to have a 10-foot driveway that would go sideways. And then secondly, I don't know how accommodating any other vantage point into the property would be still going towards the aspect element of the view of the property not having cars, because you can see it from either vantage point. So on those grounds, if you can see it from any vantage point, we're asking leniency that we can accommodate the way we would like to drive out of our property, since it seems to be a moot issue to us. You're still going to see driveways and cars, so long as we abide by the setbacks necessary from the radius, which is 50 feet from the corner of Murfreesboro and Ewingville.
Okay. I think we may have additional questions for you.
Yeah, should I
Appreciate
sit
your
down
comments, Sam.
and shut up now?
I'd sit in that first corner seat, and that way you don't have to kind of hurdle
Okay.
people.
Thank you for
Getting back
hearing
up
me.
to-
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Next, we will open the public comment. Are there any citizen comments? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
Motion closed. Second.
Motion made by Board Member Reeves, second by Board Member Flushauer. Jeff, I almost forgot your name again. I can't ever get that straight.
It's a hard one.
All right, all in favor of closing the public comment, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, public comment's closed. Any questions from the board on this item at all?
I do. This one's a hard one for me. I understand the ask, but we're butting up against the three standards we have. I will say this. I appreciate the additional staff comment and thought. What would that look like? I know we've got the proposed driveway. Do you have any thought as to that additional staff comment, how that would be plotted?
So how that would look is not having the driveway extend all the way onto Murfreesboro Road, possibly having a slight extension, not going all the way to Murfreesboro Road so that they would be able to turn around or something along those
They
lines.
could essentially, they take the curb cut out off of Murfreesboro.
Right.
And then he would just be able to back up out of his driveway towards Murfreesboro Road enough to
maneuver the car to go frontwards out on Ewing.
Right. But it would go out to Ewingville, and I know I pulled up a street view. Looked like there had been an entrance, or at least there's a gate. Would that be where you guys are thinking?
On Ewingville, there was?
Yeah.
Really?
There is a curb cut. I'm not sure exactly where that's located, if that is at the 50 feet from the radius.
So specifics to be figured out, but the concept is, okay, I got you.
He's showing it coming out right mid-span of the house. I don't know where that old entrance falls on Ewingville.
I think that's
I'm
about where.
asking you as the homeowner.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
Where is the, is there an existing curb cut on Ewingville was an older access of some sort?
There appears to be a deteriorated asphalt pad that's on Ewingville, but nothing on the backyard of our property.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that,
Where they're showing in this diagram that you evidently, you had sent this in, the access to Ewingville is occurring about mid-span of the house.
yeah.
So is that not where that old curb cut was? Are you telling
Yeah,
me
I
it's
mean, that-
further in the backyard?
Well, that is where we are roughly identifying that at present to be a possibility, since it seems like there was intimation that would be a place. I don't know if that was done for post box. There's nothing in the yard, so, and there's also not any room between the porch and the garage, and even when it was otherly to put a parking pad where you can maneuver one car, if not two.
Yeah, I wondered about that, looking at it.
And it's the second point that, planning has identified that there isn't enough room for cars to enter, exit the garage, or turn around.
So how would that appeal to you to take away the curb cut on Murfreesboro and just,
Well,
you
I didn't
wouldn't
know
have
what.
access either way then? You don't have
Well,
access
no,
on
see,
you.
because if we drive up on the left side, it's present driveway on the left, and we park both our cars adjacent to the house and further on, we're addressing the intent of the visual aspect of the code. We can drive back on that driveway enough to turn right and then go out forward
Yes, sir.
without touching the street and risking our safety.
Well,
Additionally, we could enter Ewingville Road, and if we wanted to go out that side, the consideration of a circular driveway doesn't work because there's easements and power pole. Plus, there's not enough distance from Ewingville to another entrance that would be safe.
So what
So,
I'm saying is Ewingville would be your only way in and out. You'd be asked to close your access to Murfreesboro.
I mean, we wouldn't prefer that. If you're asking me, do we prefer that, or,
I guess maybe that's a question for staff. Do we know, because I see the additional staff comment about, should we approve this, add a condition to close the Murfreesboro road cut? Would engineering make the applicant close that regardless if they had Ewingville access? Or do we know that?
I don't know that we know that for certain.
Well, I spoke to Lance Fitro this week, and he said he did not think so.
Okay.
If I could add something.
Sure.
The additional comment, the intent behind it is that it would come into compliance with its technical street standards. So it's purely just to encourage that the proposed driveway come into compliance more with the street standards by not having an entrance onto Murfreesboro Road.
Okay.
Kind of steering us in that direction.
So Ariel, when I first read that, and I don't know why I thought this, I thought maybe it would go through the backyard, but you're just saying cut off the curb cut onto Murfreesboro.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Any additional questions from the board at all?
Yeah, I've got another one.
Okay.
So we were provided with a map of adjacent properties with circular drives. And I don't know that the request is technically a circular drive. I don't know, would it be considered a circular drive? No, because it
No.
goes from one street to a different street. But it looks like there's at least two with a circular drive. Do you guys know the history of any of that? Okay.
The problem is they're not corners,
Yeah.
so that they don't correlate as well, is that you have to be a certain footage away from the intersection. I don't mean to answer for staff, but.
Yeah, I can add to that a bit. So, I mean, there are a couple possibilities of what those could be. There are circular driveways allowed for a certain size lot. I believe it's 30,000 feet, square feet. So it could be that those lots fit that size requirement, or that they were built before the establishment of this zoning ordinance.
I think from a practical matter, I mean, it looks like the reason they're circular is access getting out. Like, I mean, nobody wants to back out onto a major street. Yeah. Okay. Any additional, you have additional comment on that?
Yeah, one of the other considerations that I was told from building is that if there were to be a parking pad in my backyard, I would then have to move my fence line in 15 feet. Now, if the assumption is to impact the aesthetics of the neighborhood so you don't see anything, I can assure you can see it without a fence. If I put a fence in, I don't believe I have enough room to both accommodate a fence and a parking pad in the backyard.
Okay.
And the neighbor being next to us, if you can see on Google Maps, the positioning of her home and the driveway in relation to her home has more than enough ample room to drive in a manner differently than we do, because she doesn't even have a garage. But she actually isn't even using that as a driveway, I don't think. And I know, well, there's complications with our property right now.
Okay. All right, I'm ready
And can I just say one thing? I know that legal nonconforming things is not a provision under appeals to be justifiable, but under the essence of what the intent is for safety, I am certain that the neighbors that have the two circular driveways, one of which is our direct neighbor, I doubt that they were doing it to comply with the aesthetics primarily versus safety. It may not come into the purview of this as far as a zoning thing, but we have a restraining order against our neighbor as well. So part of the reasoning of wanting to not drive backwards is so that we don't encroach and trespass upon the neighbor's yard. And the specific location of this house only has a 1.5 foot setback from the existing driveway to his fence line. So we feel like we're cornered on every, no pun intended, like just hedged in on every angle here to try and find a solution that works. If there were a covenant other than just the normal response of the municipality to implore people to park back or get violations, we certainly would do that. So we have no intent in parking in the front. And with gardening and fencing, I doubt you'd see the driveway. But even if you did, you're also going to see it on the side yard. So I don't know what the vantage point language is of this. When you say the forefront, when you're a corner lot, it's not just the front of the house. It's anything you can see as you're driving towards and at that direction. So.
Okay. Thanks for your comments.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready to entertain a motion. I know we'll have some discussion. I have some comments as well, but is there a motion?
I move to approve the request for the variance for the driveway to exit onto Ewingville Drive. I further think we ought to discuss whether the additional comment should play into that motion, whether that, my motion should be amended to include that.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval, I think in general. Jump in there, Bill.
If I may, the motion you're making needs to assert whichever of those two options you contain should be attached, whether the condition should be there or not.
Okay.
It's not really on the floor when you say, let's talk about whether or not.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to clarify my motion, if I can. I move to approve the variance to allow for the driveway to exit and enter onto Ewingville Drive. I further move that we include the recommendation from staff to remove the cutout on Murfreesboro Road.
Okay. Motion for approval made with the condition.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion made by Board Member Smith, second by Board Member Fleschauer. Discussion.
I do want to make a comment on this. My parents lived off of Murfreesboro Road for a while, and just making a left turn onto Murfreesboro Road 15 years ago when they lived there, I felt like I was taking my life in my hands. I can't imagine backing out of a driveway. And because of the any kind of ingress and egress onto Murfreesboro Road that is not with a street, I think is dangerous. That is why I included the condition that was recommended by the staff. Let's just have traffic go in and out of a road rather than a driveway whenever that is possible. Safety should be a primary factor, in my opinion.
Any additional comments?
Well, I'm also in agreement with that, with the fact that he's so tight on his property line that gives him an area of the driveway for him to maneuver the cars back and turn and go out and not have to get off of the driveway in any manner. So that also helps him in that regard.
Yep. So I think I try to put myself in my position if I lived in this home. I mean, backing out would definitely be a challenge. I mean, sometimes just driving down Murfreesboro Road is a challenge. So I think, I agree. I think it's definitely a safety concern. I'm torn on the Murfreesboro Road curb cut. If there's zero traffic, it provides an additional entryway. You're probably not going to exit that way, but if you're coming in, you could still pull in the Murfreesboro Road entrance.
I agree with that too.
So that's the part I'm kind of torn over is the condition component.
Yeah, back to the standards. I think it can be argued that there is an exceptional aspect to this piece of property that does impede the purpose of it under number one. And then, and I agree with the staff's conclusion on number two. And then number three, and this is the piece that you were mentioning just now. Relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, without substantially impairing the purpose. One of the purposes of this is that you don't have a lot of driveway at the front of the house. But even if you block off that Murfreesboro curb cut, you still have a lot of driveway in front of the house.
Right.
It just actually makes it more difficult to navigate. So I'd like to amend your motion, if I may. Is that
You certainly can.
okay? I'd like to amend the motion to remove the, or rather to keep the curb cut on Murfreesboro Road and approve the variance request as drafted.
All right, you're going to have to help me here, Bill. We're on the rungs. So we talk about.
You're fine. Right now you have a motion to approve that has a second. It includes the condition to close the curb cut. There is a motion right now to amend that motion to remove the condition, leaving the curb cut there. That motion needs a second if it's going to be considered. And then you just go from there.
Okay. All right, so motion made to amend with at least the condition that was added. Is there a second on that amendment?
I'll second
Okay, second by Board Member Fletchauer. So now we take a vote on that, right, Bill?
Yes, and you have discussion on the amendment itself, not the main item, but whether or not to include the curb cut.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll take a vote now. So this is all the vote on the amendment, and then we'll discuss it, and then we'll kind of come back, I think, to the main motion. So Board Member Reeves.
Yes.
Board Member Langley, yes. Board Member Smith.
No.
Okay. Board Member Fletchauer.
that. Yes.
Okay. So that's 3-1 on the amendment. So amendment passes, I guess. So now we're back to the main motion.
Yes, you come one step back down the letters. The main motion is amended to not include the condition.
Okay. All right, so I guess discussion. We've had discussion, but so now we're back to the main motion. We removed the condition. Board Member Smith's, I guess, original motion is still in play without the condition. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional comments?
No, I'm fine with it.
I think I agree with that because, I mean, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me, keeping the curb cut.
I like the idea of being able to pull off of Murfreesboro into your property from that curb cut.
When to me, it's really that you've got all the driveway. You just don't have an entrance
Yeah.
onto Murfreesboro.
Why not have a curb cut if you're gonna have all the driveway, right?
Okay. All right, let's vote then. So Board Member Reeves?
Yes.
Board Member Langley, yes. Board Member Smith?
Yes.
And Board Member Fleschauer?
Yes.
All right, so this item is approved without the staff comment in the staff report. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion for adjournment made by Board Member Fleschauer, seconded by Board Member Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. I don't think anyone's opposed.
That's right.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.